Okay, is the sound right? Can everybody hear me? And hopefully understand. Okay. There's been so much fear, at least in my experience talking to people, of coronavirus, a lot of dread, and sometimes even just terror. And I just don't think the Lord wants us to live that way. And I'm privileged and thankful to be able to share my experience. I have a lot of underlying problems called comorbidities, meaning that you can get complicated almost anything that you get. So lungs and other things I won't go into. So anyhow, I just wanted to say that. And in June, I began to start feeling bad and not showing up to distancing meetings. And then I started getting sick, and I won't go through the symptoms. Y'all can probably rattle them off well yourself, but one of them was shortness of breath, which I already had, and so it was worse. I was not struggling to breathe, thank the Lord, but it was difficult to breathe sometimes. And let's see, it was really a pretty mild case. I was by myself for a while, and then after a few days, my daughter Mary got sick with the same thing. And since our families were going to the beach for the big annual beach trip, we knew we would have to miss it, so we just stayed at my house together, which was kind of nice. She slept the whole time, and I don't know what I did, but it wasn't very momentous, I can tell you that. But for me, it was more like, she says for her it was like a cold. It was just almost nothing, and I know it varies from one end of the spectrum to the other. I was on the milder end, even though I did develop pneumonia in both lungs. It was like a mild flu. It wasn't pleasant, but it wasn't awful. And so Mary was with me for a little over a week, and then I stayed by myself. But before any of this happened, the Lord did something that it sort of surprised me and helped prepare me. My sister called me, and she said, I want you to buy a pulse oximeter, the things they clip on your finger to check your oxygen. And I thought, well, that's weird. You can get it on Amazon. I thought, well, okay, so I did. And it was really nice to have, because one of my prayers when I realized I was sick was that I stay out of the hospital. I'm a nurse. I've been in the hospital. That's enough for me. So I think a lot of medical people feel that way. So my doctor said, you keep checking that oxygen. And so I did. I checked it and so forth, and it really let me know, well, I may feel like I'm not breathing very well, but I'm really getting plenty of oxygen. I'm okay. So that was nice. But I will say that when things started getting tight in my lungs, I would kind of think, well, what's going to happen now? Is something horrible going to happen? What's next? And that kind of puts you in a state of panic. The Lord just began to nudge me toward that scripture in Isaiah 26. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on thee. And so I'd heard someone speak on that years ago about how our minds are like a dog that's been trained to come to heel for his owner. And the dog will see a car and run after it, and they'll say, the owner says, no, come back, and then a squirrel. And the dog runs after everything, but eventually learns to stand with its master. And so that's what my mind was doing. Instead of thinking my way through these things, I just came back to the Lord. He holds us in the hollow of his hand. He has our times in his hands. He knows everything. He does everything well. It doesn't mean it's painless, as, we all know that. But anyway, so I really did, I rested in peace. I was in peace with him, and that was such a blessing. So anyway, let's see what else I was going to say. My case was not terrible. It was protracted. It lasted for a few weeks. And now my brain's a little foggy, and I'm up and down. I'll feel good one day and terrible for a few days, but I think that's just kind of normal, but I am recovering. But I just want to say that the Lord, in any kind of circumstance, he is our only hope for peace. That we live in a world with or without COVID, that it's a dangerous world sometimes, and He is with us, and He knows what's right for us. And pandemic or not, He's holding us. I just read a verse today that I want to close with. I think it was really sweet. It's from the Passion Translation, and it's from Hebrews 6, and it says, "We have run into His heart," that's the Lord's, "to hide ourselves in His faithfulness." And I think that's what we all need to do, COVID or not, and all the rest of it or not. Thank y'all.